Hello, hello, hello. Good to see everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Good to see you too.
Letting people in. Everybody's on time. We're actually a little early. Everybody's a little early, which is great. Hey, Joyce, we have quite a few RSVPs now. We're up to about 7 or 8 RSVPs.
Right. Great.
Joyce, are you there? Somewhere you're there. She's connecting her audio.
Hi.
Hey, there you are. So yeah, we have about 7 or 8 RSVPs already for the grief support group.
Ah, thanks. I'm excited about it. I just had to change a smoke alarm. It was beeping in the master bedroom.
Oh no, the battery?
Battery, something simple, but I have a very high ceiling. And I had asked Jim Carson over to fix it. And he said to say hello to you. I said, I'm running to a meeting with Mark Blazer and Cheryl and David Schulman. He said, say hello to everybody.
And Mike and Barry Schwartz.
He changed my smoke alarm battery. Oh,
Well, so again, everybody, as we're getting into welcoming everybody in tonight, not just the last class of June, it's the last day of June.
yes.
June is over. And to me, it's kind of like a weird day because, well, first of all, our synagogue fiscal year actually begins tomorrow. So our new membership cycles, our new budgets, all that stuff starts tomorrow. So we want everybody to do their membership. But the kind of the weird thing about that anyways is that it means half of the year on the secular calendar is gone. First 6 months. It means we're in the last half of 2021 already. Tomorrow we start the second half, however you want to look at it. And of course, for me, it also means we're only 2 months away from high holidays. And you're the first people besides Harvey that we learned yesterday that we're going to be doing services, God willing, hopefully in person, at Valencia United Methodist Church across the street from Henry Mayo, that we're going to be using that church this year, which is really, really a beautiful church.
Yeah, we square danced there, Rabbi. It's a really nice place.
It's really nice, much nicer. I don't want to trash the other United Methodist Church because they're really nice and they were very generous. But the Valencia United Methodist people are giving us a very good deal.
But it's also a lot newer than the one we used to go to.
It is newer. It's also been rehabbed more recently and more thoroughly. And we actually used it for people who have a good memory. About 5 or 6 years ago, we used it for a Passover Seder that we did, a really, really big Passover Seder. We did 1 year. We had about 200 people. We didn't charge a penny for anything for Seder. We had the sisterhood or somebody underwrote it, and we ended up doing the Seder for free. We did it there, and it was great. It was a great place. It was probably about 6, maybe even 7 years ago. We did the Seder there, and really nice. It was when my friend John Shaver was the pastor there. He's down in Encinitas. The last 6 years he's been down in Encinitas. But what a nice guy. What a great. And we always did the Daniel Pearl music festivals would go on there as well. So anyways, I'm very excited about it.
Rabbi, who's going to be the cantor then this year?
Well,
or don't we have one yet?
We do. I don't know if we should tell you.
Oh, you can tell us. We won't tell us so.
I guess we can put it out there. We are It looks like we're going to be having Addie and Rick.
Oh, really?
So,
I really like them, Rabbi.
good. I'm glad. I think we're. It's a really good situation there in Santa Clarita. They have a lot of musical connections. They led services. We're giving them another service to do July 9th. So a week from this Friday, the Rick and Addie will lead services. You can watch their service that they led because it's up on Facebook, the one they did on the 18th, but they're going to do it again on July 9th. And I think after that, we'll probably formalize it, and we'll be looking forward to working with them. We're also going to have Justin Stein doing services a couple times during the year. Wendy, of course, doing services. And then we also have Joe Buchanan, who we've been featuring on Friday night services from Texas. Joe's going to come out and lead a service one weekend during this coming year too. So we're hoping to have a few other special guests that we've had over on our video service. Have a few of those people come by. So Joe will be a for sure. The other people like Josh Nelson and some of these other people, we're gonna work hard on trying to do it too. It's really a lot of them are still, their schedules are almost everyone's schedules are still in flux right now. Even Rick and Addie's, even Kenny's. Kenny, by the way, is going to be doing services this year at Thousand Oaks. He's going to be working at the conservative synagogue doing high holidays at Temple Etz Chaim on Jan's Road over there, for the people who know Thousand Oaks, Conejo Valley. So he's going to be there this year, which is a fortuitous thing for him. So we're happy for that. And Kenny's doing Saturday morning services for the B'nai Mitzvah over the course of these next coming months. So we're going to get a flyer out with all the musical features and things that are going to go on for Friday nights and Shabbat and holidays, so that people can be excited, which, by the way, is a perfect segue because, and by the way, all the services and all the people, whether again with Joe Buchanan live or hey Diane, Rick and Addie, whoever's leading services, we're going to be streaming it live. So if you're Diane, who lives up in San Jose, or if you're Cheryl and David that are in Texas, or if you're Mike Schwartz, who's in Mary, that are in the other side of town, way up on the hill, they can decide not to.
Cheryl, how's your how you feeling these days?
Oh, progressing,
Good.
getting better.
Good.
Yep. A little bit better every day. It'll be a while. Thanks for asking, Mike.
Excellent. Do we have anybody else from, I don't see anyone else from out of the area right now, but obviously we're working on how we're going to, high holidays are definitely going to be streamed live. That's 100% for sure.
You're going to get cameras in there?
They already have them at the church.
They
it's
do.
It's a question really of whether our person's going to do it, whether Mike from our guy, Mike, our other different Mike, but that Mike is going to do them, or whether their person will do them. But one way or the other, we'll be streaming it. It'll be streaming it. And that's kind of actually, by the way, just so you know, that's kind of where one of the tricks are, because not tricks, but really how to do it. Because, you know, in the past, we've always had people, if they weren't members, we had people pay for tickets essentially for high holidays. And so if we stream it live, there's no real incentive for somebody to be a member. So there are ways to do it so that you have to get a password and you get a live link. And that's what a lot of synagogues did last year. But my worry about that is it's going to be a little complicated, but we'll see. I mean, you know, we did it last year. We did it last year with a taped link. So doing a live link shouldn't be really that hard, other than the fact that it's, the more you do live, the more you have opportunity for things to go sideways. And that's what a lot of synagogues found. That's what we found when we even Wednesday nights, you know, if we lose a signal or something drops, then it's not conducive to worship, study, connection, whatever. So you know, with a tape thing, you essentially, it's like if you lost power at home, you're watching TV and the power goes out, you turn it on nowadays and you just go back to, well, I shouldn't say that. The whole, yeah, if you're watching something that you DVR'd, then it'll be fine. But if I guess you were watching something live, then you might have lost it. But anyways, the point is that we're doing our best to try to make it accessible, to make sure that people, if they're not going to be there, that they still feel connected. And now that Harvey's on the line, I will tell you, we have new toilets.
No,
Thanks to Harvey. Not because Harvey likes toilets, because Harvey made sure that the toilets got installed today. So, I mean, I helped a little bit. He helped more than I did. But the good thing is that Robert Cohen, who is a member of our community who lives out in Lancaster, he's a plumber. He's the one who got it done for us, most importantly. And so his crew came over and inserted all the stuff, got it all done, and it was all done in one day. So, and
Harvey's looking a little flush right now.
yeah, and Harvey,
I flushed them all today.
So how do they look, Harvey? Did you come back at the
Look
end?
good.
To see?
And I sent you a picture. I sent Tracy.
I
a
did.
picture.
I know. I saw it. But
They look good.
by the end of
And
next
the new
week.
stalls are coming in Wednesday or Thursday.
So I was just going to say, so the stalls are going to, they are going to, their stalls are going to be up too. So it's going to look much better. It's going to function much better. And those little things that we need to get done are getting done. So thank you, Harvey.
But it'll all be ready for me to start my support group on the 13th.
Well, I don't want to say anything, but that was, Harvey, that was part of the discussion, wasn't it?
And from what I'm hearing, more people are signing up and I'm very pleased, and they're willing to wait till the 13th.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of people. She has, yeah. Anyways, yes, that was one of the reasons why we wanted to wait till the 13th, is to make sure that this was all done, and looks like it will be. Looks like it shall. And then we're also working, Harvey, and again, our board is working on trying to get our classes, at least our Wednesday night class, back in the building. And I just had another email today from someone who's not coming until it's live. So it's not anybody, by the way, it's not who you think it is, by the way. So
Somebody new.
It's not somebody new, it's somebody old, but somebody who we would love to have come back and be part of our classes, who wants to come back live. So I'm not gonna, it's like a mystery. It's an interesting mystery, but she might actually be watching on Facebook, because I know she stalks us occasionally on Facebook. So with that being said, we are working on that, and all of this is getting worked out. I will tell you that the indoor mask order that went across California yesterday did not help, but let's hope that whatever has to happen. Look, we're Tracy and I are going to England in 2 weeks, and we almost canceled our trip yesterday because they've made it so difficult for international travel, especially to England, that we almost threw in the towel yesterday, because now they're saying you literally cannot leave the house. If you go to England, you cannot, from America, you cannot leave the house for 5 days when you get there. And they are checking, they are calling, and they are coming over to people's homes. You have to fill out a locator slip. On top of that, you have to have a vaccination when you go. You have to get tested within 48 hours before you leave, on top of that. And then once you land, you have to get tested on the 2nd day and on the 8th day. Now, if you're not staying there for 8 days, which we are not, then it doesn't matter. You still have to pay for it, and you can leave earlier, but you are not allowed to leave the place that you're going to for 5 days. You're not allowed to leave the house. You're not allowed to go outside and take a walk.
No.
Sounds like insanity.
Yep.
Sounds like a prison.
And it sounds like, again, they're making it really hard, because we're making it really hard for people that are coming from England. So it's a kind of tit for tat thing.
Oh,
England actually took a bunch of countries off of their amber list and moved them to the green list, which America is obviously on the amber list. We didn't get moved. And I guess we didn't move them. So it's frustrating. So again, these are not huge I don't want to make it seem like these are huge problems, but Tracy did want to see her parents. She hasn't seen them in 2 years. And I told her we're going. I told her, don't worry about it. We'll make it work. And if we don't leave the house, we don't leave the house. But the important thing is that you're going to go and we'll make the best of it. But I've never done anything like this, where you literally travel to another country on a plane, go through an airport, and then literally have to go right to a house.
quarantine.
Seems weird. Anyways, doesn't make sense. So, I mean, it really doesn't. I can't understand the logic of it, but because I can understand if they just said you can't come in. I get that, but I don't understand making people test before they leave, while they're there, and then on top of that, say you're not allowed to go out, and you've been vaccinated. I mean, again, all of those things. So again, I don't know what to say other than it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And yeah, anyways, so let's take a look at the Torah portion of Pinchas, of another portion named after a person. In this case, a guy that we were introduced to last week at the end of the portion. We read about the story of Baal Peor. We read about the they call the heresy of Baal Peor, or the idolatry, the sexual perversion at Baal Peor, all different kinds of ways of describing this thing that happens right after this beautiful rest of the portion that has the prayer, the curse that turns to a blessing of Balaam, that we have this scene. And well, it's obviously connected. There's a reason why we have this. There's a reason why this great portion that has so many beautiful things in it, beautiful blessings, beautiful words, and it all doesn't work the way we think it's going to work. So a lot like life, as we say. So this is the way the portion ended. The previous one, Balak, which is named after the Moabite king. So to refresh your memory, the story begins when Israel was at Shittim. The people profaned themselves by whoring with the Moabite women. Sorry. And again, it seems like they're Moabites, but also it seems like they're Midianites too. And in the whole portion, the Moabites and Midianites are being mixed up. Balaam himself isn't from either one of those people. It says he's from the east, meaning he's from like Aram. He's from the Euphrates region. But it says Israel attached itself to Baal Peor. Lord was incensed, and they kill the ringleaders. And then there's a plague. But it says that one of the ringleaders brought a Midianite woman over to his companions in the sight of Moses, and he takes him to, he takes the Midianite woman again. The Moabite and Midianite women are used interchangeably here. And Pinchas saw this. He took a spear in his hand. He struck both of them. But it says the plague killed 24,000 people. And this is going to be critical, because in this portion, we're going to read about another census that's done a second census in the book of Numbers. Numbers opens with a census, and then we have one here towards the end of the book. We have a second census, and it's a different generation. The first census was done on the generation of men, adult men, remember, who were over 20, who came out of Egypt. This is the next generation after this plague. So you can see that this is, that's the story of Baal Peor, that story there, and we're going to get some more details about it. The interesting thing here is at the end of chapter 24, it says Balaam set out on his journey back home, and Balak also went back in his way. And then it says that this happened at Shittim. Now, it doesn't explicitly say that this was Balak and Balaam that are responsible for this here. It doesn't say that, but it's obvious that there's a connection. It happens in the same region. It happens with the Moabite women. And it happens right after Balak, who tried to destroy us with curses, is unsuccessful. So here's the way the portion begins. And it says, and again, it begins here with kind of in the middle of the chapter. The chapter begins. The chapter begins here, kind of again. The Christian, put this together with the previous story. We kind of broke it up and said, hey, well, no, wait, let's get to Pinchas. And so the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the high priest, has turned back my wrath from the Israelites by displaying among them his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. So here you have the word kana 2 times. Once it is his passion, and the other one is my passion. It's kano here. It's the 3 times actually. 2 times it's my passion, and 1 is his passion. And so what's interesting about this idea is that the word kana, which is passion, it's also emotion, it's also translated as zeal, or jealousy, which is also connected to the word zealous. Jealous and zealous are actually have the same root in English or from French. But the point is that in Hebrew, God is connected with this adjective of being passionate or jealous. I am a jealous God is what we read a few times in the Torah. And here, Pinchas shows that he is passionate, jealous, protective of God. And God is also jealous or zealous. And it isn't just protection, because God says, in my passion, in my emotion, which is why they use the word passion, I would have destroyed everybody. So the word kana doesn't just mean jealousy or passion or protective or wanting, desiring. It really means also emotion and passion when it becomes violent even. So you have this very famous line here, which is that, say therefore, I grant him my pact of friendship, briti shalom. I make with Pinchas a pact of shalom, a covenant of peace. It shall be for him and his descendants after him a pact of priesthood for all time, because he took an impassioned action for his God, thus making expiation for the Israelites. And again, the word kana here, that God, that he was passionate for God, and he made expiation, chaper, which is the word kippur. So what's interesting about this guy, what really is kind of remarkable about Pinchas is that he's Aaron's grandson, so he's already adult enough. Aaron, we just read before, died. So his father, Eleazar, is the 3rd oldest, because again, we read about Nadav and Avihu dying. He's the next oldest. Eleazar is the third oldest. So he's the grandson and he's the heir apparent. And he will be, by the way, without ruining the story, later on in the book of Joshua and in the book of Judges, we read that this guy, Pinchas, is most definitely the high priest. He's the third high priest. So it goes Aaron, Eleazar, his father, and then this guy, Pinchas. What's interesting about this line here is it seems to say that the priesthood is passing through Pinchas, which is interesting because later on, when we get much, much later, hundreds of years later, to the book of Maccabees, literally 1,000 years later, the lineage is still going back through Pinchas. What's interesting about that is that we're already in this book of Numbers, early in the Bible, the fourth book of the Bible, we're already getting genealogies of priests that are more important than other priests. And why do I say that? Is that there are two sons that survive, Eleazar and Itamar. Now we know that Itamar had descendants that are Kohanim. We also see, though, that here you have Eleazar's, the older son. It seems like his kids, his descendants, and he didn't just have Pinchas. Pinchas isn't his only son. You are getting primacy amongst the priesthood, and that you had constantly. Later on, one of Pinchas's descendants, Sadok, becomes the ancestor of the Sadducees, the Sadokim, who are one lineage of the priesthood that becomes more powerful, even more so. So as the family grows, there are trees that come off, there are branches that come off of the tree, and each of those branches are essentially vying to be the powerful branch. But every time there's like one branch that becomes bigger and more powerful and stronger than the other branches. And anytime you have a dynasty, this is what happens. And it's not always the oldest child's descendants who become powerful. You know, that happens, that sometimes, you know, and again, if you're really into Shakespeare and if you're really into British monarchy, you know, you can read Richard III and why was Richard III not Richard, you know, not Richard the first son, you know, there are from that line, you know, why are there House of York and House of Lancaster? I mean, if you want to get into those kinds of dynasties, which was real, I mean, this wasn't, Shakespeare didn't make it up. He was basing it on the history of his country, the recent history of his country, or somewhat recent history of his country. There were dynastic wars between cousins, right? They were related. They were all related, but there were different branches. And this is what happens to the priesthood, is that you're starting to see certain priests essentially becoming the priest that is the priest. And so you see it at the very beginning where you have Aaron being chosen to be the inheritor of the priesthood and not Moses. And then you see Aaron's sons, and then you see Aaron's grandsons. And again, it just keeps happening. Every generation, essentially like one line out of, and it becomes, obviously, as each generation becomes more and more possibilities. So in one generation, you know, it's 3 possibilities. The next generation, there's 12 possibilities. The next generation, there's 36 possibilities. The possibilities keep growing. And essentially, you're kind of like trying to figure out how to narrow who could possibly be priest. And this was a very important issue, folks. People died in ancient Israel over who was going to be priest. Up until the time of the Romans, Jews were killing each other to literally be priest, to be the Kohen Gadol, to be the priest in charge. So this is, you see, what this pact of friendship is, or I would not even say the pact of friendship. That's the way they translate shalom. It's really the pact of, this is the guy. Pinchas is the pact through his descendants. And we know the other descendants, by the way. We know Itamar, you know, one of Itamar's descendants is the priest Eli. He was a priest, but it seems like he wasn't a good priest, you know, and we read about him from the book of Samuel. His kids go really off the deep end. And so, you know, it goes back to, keeps trying to, like, you know, again, maybe it's because the person who wrote this was a descendant of Pinchas himself. So it's an explanation for, again, why Pinchas is the one who has the pact of friendship, or the pact, again, of wholeness, or of stability, or of harmony, or the chosen one, if you will. That is Pinchas. Because it says, it shall be for him and his descendants after him a pact of priesthood for all time, because he took impassioned action for his God and thus making expiation for the Israelites. Again, it's pretty clear that this is why is Pinchas better than everybody else. So back to the story of Baal Peor. It says the name of the Israelite who was killed, the one who was killed with the Midianite woman, was Zimri, the son of Salu, chieftain of the Shimonite, the house of Shimon. We read about Shalu. We know this guy. So this guy, Zimri, his son, should have known better. It says the name of the Midianite woman who was killed was Cosbi, the daughter of Tsur. He was the tribal head of the ancestral house of Midian. So it says that he was sinning with a very influential Midianite priestess, or princess, I should say. Her name was Cosbi. And Cosbi, by the way, Kazav was the name of a Midianite god, and it seems like legitimate Midianite name would be Cosby. Kind of ironic, right? Never thought of that until just now. Her name is Cosby. That's her name. So I know somebody's going to say that, but it's Cosby right there. Huh. That's weird timing. Anyways, I don't think I'm sharing any information that Bill Cosby was in the news today, folks. So anyways, that is her name. So she's the one who got speared. She's the one who got punished. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, assail the Midianites and defeat them, for they assailed you by trickery. They practiced against you because of the affair of Peor and because of the affair of their kinswoman Cosbi, the daughter of the Midianite chieftain who was killed at the time of the plague on account of Peor. So what we have here is God telling Moses, go attack the Midianites for what happened here. Now, again, there seems to be a weird conflation here, because at the very beginning of the story, right, it seems as though the problem is, it says right here still, it says the Midianite woman here, but it says right here, yeah, it says the Moabites. It says right here at the beginning of the story, they're Moabites. So
woman, there it is.
yeah, so how did this happen? How did we get this thing from the Moabites to the Midianites? And how did this happen? This happens while they're in Moab. This is right here. Like how does this get shifted on us? Like, how did that get thrown in there? And I do believe there's actually, and I've talked about this before with you, I think this is an indication of a tendency that we have in the Bible by some of the authors to dirt the Midianite people, because the story seems at the face of it to really be something that happened to the Moabites in the land of Moab. And remember, the Midianites are a Bedouin tribe. They can live anywhere. But the fact that they're living amongst the Moabites here it's possible. It's possible. Zipporah was a Moabite that seemed to be living down closer to Mount Sinai. That's where Yitro was, down in Mount Sinai area. Again, so there could be lots of different Midianites, but it also seems to be someone who's really dirtying the Midianites, which again, if you're dirtying the Midianites, you're not just dirtying a people, a nation, you're also dirtying Moses, because Moses was married to a Midianite woman. So when you're doing this, you're actually attacking, you're dirtying Moses himself, because Moses was associated with the Midianites. His father-in-law, who he loves, is a Midianite priest, Yitro, Kohen, Midian. That's what it says. So I think what you have here again is this opportunity to bring in the Midianites into this. So what do they do in chapter 26? When the plague was over, the Lord said to Moses, so everybody got that point about the Midianites, right? By the way, the Midianites get dirted for no reason, by the way, in the Joseph story, where it says the Ishmaelites were taking Joseph down to Egypt as a slave. All of a sudden the traders are Midianites. It's almost like somebody just, anytime that they were talking about some bad group of people ethnically. Anytime they can throw out an ethnic slur, they'd say, oh yeah, those are Midianites. Like, but the thing is that the other part was kept. So you can actually see where in one version it says Moabite or Ishmaelite, and the other it says Midianite. So you actually see it. It actually like is a glaring thing of like, well, what'd you throw that in there for? So now we have the second census. Take a census of the whole Israelite community from the age of 20 years and up by their ancestral houses, all Israelites able to bear arms. Same as what we had at the beginning of Numbers 25 chapters ago. So Moses and Eleazar the priests on the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho gave instructions about them, namely, those from 20 years and up as the Lord commanded Moses, the descendants of Israel who came out of Egypt were. And now we're going to have a tribe by tribe listing. The listing is different, folks. I'm not going to ruin it for you by sharing that information, but there are different amounts of people that come out of Egypt that are ready to go up. Now you're saying, well, wait a second, we're only in the book of Numbers. We have a whole nother book coming, the book of Deuteronomy. Things could happen there. I told you before, the book of Deuteronomy takes place over a matter of weeks. This is the end of the Torah, folks. This is the end geographically, chronologically. We're in the last days before Moses dies and before the people are about to cross in. It's weird to think about it because we read it over months. We read the book of Deuteronomy over the entire summer. We haven't even gotten to the book of Deuteronomy, I know, but trust me when I tell you that between July, August, September, when we're reading the book of Numbers, we're sitting at the other side of the Jordan River, ready to cross into the promised land. But we're here now. We're on the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho right now. So that being said, Moses is about to go. That is the theme that we start to get here in this portion. We got it even 2 weeks ago when we read in Hukat that Aaron and Miriam both die, right? Or Miriam and then Aaron, they both die. So it's being set up that this generation is passing, and even the leadership is passing away. So now we have another census, which is essentially Moses had a census when he took over the people, took them out of Egypt, and now they're doing a check on how many people are coming back, and it's about 2,000 off, by the way, as far as adult males. So it's about 2,000 off. It's virtually the same, but it should have grown. It should have been more men. Should have been more people, but they've died in several plagues and punishments and incidents where there are people who should have still been alive, including, by the way, all those people who died in the wilderness, because those people that die over the last 40 years, the implication is that maybe some of those people would not have died. Some of those people might have been like 60 years old, and they're gone. Because anybody who was old enough to know better, except for Caleb and Joshua, they're all going to die, all those men, all the women, but all the men who said, oh, we can't go up now, when the bad report came out in Shlach Lecha, all those men are out. Those men should have been alive. The implication is they died before their time. That's the takeaway from it, folks. Now we have the list. And so again, Reuben, Israel's firstborn, descendants of Reuben, of Enoch, the clan of the Enochites, Palu, the son of Paluites, of Hezron, the clan of Hezronites, of Carmi, the clan of Carmites. Those are the clans of the Reubenites. The persons enrolled came to 43,730. And I'm not, again, we're going to go through them all, then I'll tell you, again, it's off a couple thousand. Some tribes grow, some tribes shrink. So not every tribe shrunk. Some tribes actually grew during this 40-year period. So it's a 40-year period. Born to Palu, Eliab, the sons of Eliab were Nemuel, Datan, and Abiram. These are the same Datan and Abiram chosen in the assembly who agitated against Moses and Aaron as part of Korach's band when they agitated against the Lord. Well, you know what happened to them? The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with Korach when that band died. When the fire consumed the 250 men and they became an example. The sons of Korach, however, did not die. Now, by the way, it threw that in there, even though we're not talking about Korach is a Levite, right? It didn't talk about him there with the Levites. It talked about it here when they went into this little excursus on the Korach incident, which included guys from the tribe of Reuben. It's very important, the rabbis point out, that the sons of Korach don't die. Because the rabbis derive from this some very important lessons, which are that just because your father is a schnook doesn't mean you're going to be. Your father could have been the worst guy in the world, but you don't have to be. It's a very, very powerful lesson that the sons of Korach don't go along with their father. And the rabbis point out in a midrash, that's not easy. Because what were they supposed to do when Korach told them, hey, we're banding together against Moses. His time is up. Moses and Aaron, they're done. It's time for your dad to take power. Think about how hard it was for them to say, no, it's not. So according to the midrash, they kept silent. They didn't say anything. They didn't want to be disrespectful children, but they also didn't want to be disrespectful to God and to Moses. But think about the horrible situation that they were in, the descendants, the sons of Korach. And what we know about them later on is that they are mentioned during the time of King David as writers of Psalms. Some of the Psalms, it says, were written by the sons of Korach, the Korachites, which is interesting because it says that they are still have a level of power, yet everybody knows who they're descendants of. Everyone knows that they're Levites who are descendants of the worst Levite of all time, the one that the earth swallowed up because he was so evil. But yet, they were respected. So it teaches us a very important lesson, not to assume that somebody is bad just because their father was bad or mother. So next we go after Reuben, we go to Shimon, the sons of Shimon by their clans of Nemuel, the clan of the Nemuelites, of Yamin, the clan of the Yammanites, of Yachin, the clan of the Yachinites, of Zerach, the clan of the Zerachites, of Shaul, the clan of the Saulites. So that's the name of the king, but it's not the same Saul. Those are the clans of Simeonites, persons enrolled 22,200. They went down. The sons of Gad by their clans of Zephon, the clan of the Zephonites, of Hagi, the clan of the Haggonites, of Haggites, the son of Shuni, the clan of the Shunites, of Ozni, the clan of the Oznites, of Eri, the son of the Erites, of Arod, the clan of the Arodites, of Areli, the clan of the Arelites. Those are the clans of God's descendants, 40,500. Born to Judah, Aaron Onan. Aaron Onan died in the land of Canaan. We read about that story back in Genesis chapter 38. Descendants of Judah by their clans of Shelah, of the clan of Shelanites, of Perez, the clan of the Perizzites, of Zerach, the clan of the Zerachites. And again, these are the sons that are essentially born to Shelah, the last of Judah's three sons, but of course they're really his sons. Peretz and Zerach are the children that he had with Tamar. But here it calls them the son of Shelah, the last one. Descendants of Peretz, Chezron, the clan of Chezronites, of Hamul, the clan of the Hamulites. And again, you can see we have like 4 generations of people who left Egypt. Those are the clans of Judah. Persons enrolled 76,500. That's a lot. That's a lot compared to the last one, which is 40, or the one before that's 22. That's more than those two combined that are in the tribe of Judah. Descendants of Issachar by their clans of Tola, the clan of the Tolaites, of Puvah, the clan of the Punites. And again, it says like Puvah and then Punite. It sounds weird. It's because the word Puvah or Puah becomes Puni when it's plural for the Punites, for the group of Punites. So don't think that that's a spelling correction. It's just that it's not, it could be Puah, but I guess Puvah is probably the way it has to be vocalized, but it comes out to Punites. Of Yashuv, the clan of the Yashubites, of Shimron, the clan of the Shimronites. These are the clans of Issachar. Persons enrolled 64,300. Descendants of Zebulun by their clans of Sered, the clan of the Seredites, of Elon, the clan of the Elonites, of Yachliel, the clan of the Yachlites, Those are the clans of the Zebulonites, persons enrolled, 60,500. Remember, these are the guys that are along the coast. They're the seafarers. The sons of Joseph were Manasseh and Ephraim. It reminds us again that these are the sons of Joseph, not just, they're not just, they're not Jacob's sons, they're Jacob's grandsons, but they're each tribes in their own right. The descendants of Manasseh, of Machir, the clan of the Machirites. Machir begot Gilad. Of Gilad, the clan of the Giladites. And again, Gilad is in modern day Golan Heights. Very powerful region on its own. Of all the northern clans, the clan of Gilad is very powerful. We read about him later in the story of Jephthah. Of Ari, oh, these are the sons of Gilad. Of Yezer, the clan of the Yezerites. And Chelek, the clan of the Chelekites. Of Asriel, the clan of the Asrielites. Of Shechem, the clan of the Shechemites. Of Shemidah, the clan of the Shemidites. Of Hefer, the clan of the Heferites. And now we get to this text here of the daughters of Zelophehad from the tribe of Manasseh. Now, Zelophehad, the son of that guy, Hefer, right? He's from the clan of Hefer. Zelophehad is one of his sons, but he has no sons, only daughters. The names of his daughters were Machlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. Not super popular names in Israel, except for this one, Noah and Tirzah. Tirzah is not as common as it used to be, but somewhat common. But Noah, very popular. And it's not Noach, like in Noah's Ark. That's Noach's Ark. We always say Noah, but Noah is a girl's name, and it's a different sound. It's Noah versus Noach. So this is the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. So they're from the clan of Manasseh. And we're going to see what happens to those people, because we have a very special story about those women today and later on at the end of book of Numbers. So the clans of Manasseh, 52,700. That's quite a lot. These are the descendants of Ephraim by their clans, of Shutliach, the clan of Shutliites, of Becher, the clan of Becherites, of Tachan, the clan of the Tachanites. Huh, okay. These are the descendants of Shutleach, of Iran, the clan of the Aaronites. Those are the clans of Ephraim's descendants, persons enrolled 32,500. Those are the descendants of Joseph by their clans. Now we get to the other side of, again, we read about Manasseh and Ephraim, right? We read about the 2 sons of Joseph. And who comes last? The last son of Jacob, also, of course, the full brother of Joseph, Benjamin, right? This is Benjamin, who also, of course, is also the son of the same mom. It's the Rachel tribes. The Rachel tribes are Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh, all very powerful tribes. And as you can see, they're listed here with this. They're listed here with this kind of, this grouping, if you will. And they're powerful, and they're going to be powerful because their area, especially Benjamin and Ephraim, it's the heartland of Israel. It's Jerusalem and the environs. And of course, Judah on the other side is also key. It's on the southern side of Jerusalem. So you have Judah, Benjamin, and then above that, Ephraim. That's the heartland of Judea. That's the heartland of biblical Israel. And that's an area which you can imagine was sometimes it was very wealthy, maybe because it's the heartland, and traffic has to come through there, especially when there's pilgrimages. But it's also maybe, again, people fighting a little bit more because it is the heartland. It's not like the suburbs. It's where all the action, all the energy is. Oh, so let's do the tribes of the descendants of Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin. The descendants of Benjamin by their clans: of Bela, the clan of the Belites; of Ashbel, the clan of the Ashbelites; of Achiram, the clan of the Achramites; of Shephufam, the clan of the Shufavim. It's easier in Hebrew. Shufami, they're the Shufamites. Of Hupam, the clan of the Hupamites. Sons of Bela were Ard and Naaman. Of Ard, the clan of the Ardites; of Naaman, the clan of the Naamanites. These are the descendants of Benjamin by their clans. Per people enrolled, 45,600. Now we're not done. So even though those were the last sons, they're not the last sons on the list, because we actually get to some of the lists of the tribes that are kind of more on the outskirts of the center. And again, these are descendants of Bilhah and Zilpah, if you will. These are the, I wouldn't say the afterthought tribes, but they're definitely not the ones that get the same attention as the other ones. So we get, these are the descendants of Dan by their clans, of Shucham, the clan of the Shuchamites. Those are the clans of Dan by their clans. All the clans of the Shuchamites in persons enrolled, 64,400. It's quite a lot.
Now, Rabbi, are all, when they were given the numbers, are they just talking about the men that are like?
Correct. Correct.
So that the count doesn't include any of the women?
Correct.
Wow.
Absolutely.
It could be double that.
Triple it, because it also doesn't include the kids.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that's why we get up to, a few million, because and you add it all up. And I'll show you when we get to it. We'll get to a quick comparison. We'll compare. Okay, sorry. So
that's my clan right there.
the descendants of Asher by their clans: of Imnah, the clan of the Imnites; of Ishvi, the clan of the Ishvites; of Berea, the clan of the Berites. Bri, of the descendants of Bria, of Chaver, the clan of the Chaverites; of Malchiel, the clan of the Machilites. The name of Asher's daughter was Serach. I always like to remind us of Serach, this amazing woman who, according to tradition, lives for a really, really long time, like hundreds of years. So she comes out, she goes down to Egypt with Asher and with like Jacob, right? And so she's Jacob's granddaughter, but she knows Jacob and she's still alive when the Israelites are coming into the land. So this is a woman who lived through history. She lived through all the Egyptian bondage. She lived through the Exodus, or the plagues, the Exodus, the wilderness for 40 years. Why? This is amazing. So she's the witness. She's the old woman who's the witness of Jewish history. So these are the clans of Asher's descendants, 53,400. So again, these are Asher's descendants, but then it throws out Serach. So the descendants of Naphtali by their clans: of Yachzeel, the clan of the Yachzeelites; of Guni, the clan of the Gunites; of Yezer, the clan of the Yezerites; of Shilem, the clan of the Shilemites. Those are the clans of the Naphtalites. Clan by clan, persons enrolled, 45,400. That's the last tribe. So we got to Dan, Naphtali, we got to the last one, Asher, got to the last tribes. The enrollment was 601,730. So let's take a quick look, since I know you want to see it. I know you want to see this. There you go. There you go. Chapter 1 and chapter 26. You can see which tribes grew, which tribes didn't grow. Now you notice the Levites are not on that list. Levites aren't there. Moses and Aaron's tribe, not there. The priests, the Levites, they're not on the list. They're not counted here in this section. You can see again, the total number is about 1,800 lower. Virtually the same, but lower, and it should have been more. After a generation, there should have been more people, a lot more men. Just, I mean, again, some of them would have been older, wouldn't have been on that. Well, actually, it doesn't even say older, just says over 20. So some of those people that were on the numbers 1 list should have been alive for the numbers 26, and they weren't. They weren't. So again, if they were 60 years old when they left Egypt, they would have been 100. Maybe they wouldn't have been counted. But if they were 25 when they came out of Egypt, they would have been 65 now, and they're dead. It means that there were people, nobody older than 61 walked into Egypt and walked into the promised land. Nobody older than 20 walked out of Egypt and then walked into Israel. That's what I'm trying to say. That was a man. It's a man. Okay. So that's another reason why you have this number goes down. So that is the list. So you can see some of them kind of don't change that much. Some of them change a lot. These changed a lot. I mean, they went up 63% in the wilderness. So, I mean, there's 2 lists, folks. The midrash, one of the many midrashim on this is that, look, why do they have to do a midrash? Because Moses took the people out, right, of Egypt, took them through the wilderness, and now he's coming to the end of his life. He's going to be done. And he says to God, let's count, it's God who wants to make the counting, but essentially there needs to be a counting so that we know how many people Moses delivered. I took this much out, and this is what I'm bringing back. It's good accounting practices. This is what I took out of Egypt. This is what I'm bringing in. This is how many it is. So that's what you got as an accounting, which is why it actually says the words Ele Pekudei B'nai Israel. Now they translated it as this is the enrollment. But just like we have a Pekudei at the end of the book of Leviticus, that's what we call the last portion, right? Is Pekudei. That's an accounting of the materials for the tabernacle. This is an accounting of the people. It's an accounting. A pakad is to record, is to note, it's to literally record like in a book. It's to log. So that's why, enrollment is fine. It's the meaning of it, but Pekudei really has a sense of accounting. We have to audit. We have to audit it. So it says in response to, this is a long chapter. We're at verse 50 already. 50. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, among these shall the land be apportioned to shares according to the listed names. With larger groups, increase the share. With smaller groups, reduce the share. Each is to be assigned its share according to its enrollment. The land, moreover, is to be apportioned by lot, and the allotment shall be made according to the listings of their ancestral tribes. Each portion shall be assigned by lot, whether for larger or smaller groups. So what it tells us is that they actually looked at these numbers to decide how much land each tribe was going to get when they came in. So it's literally a situation where people are saying, well, when we decide how much each tribe is going to get, we're going to look at what they came in with, not what they left Egypt with, but what they came into Egypt with. The implication meaning, if these tribes got overly punished or they didn't overly procreate, which would have been a blessing, something was wrong with these tribes. And they're going to get less land because of it. So it's almost like saying you had to do the work in the wilderness to earn your place in the new country. There isn't accounting for it. That's what essentially the accounting is for. The tribes are being accounted, and they're being judged, and they're being evaluated by how many of them come in to the land now. It's roughly the same amount, but some tribes were winners And some tribes were losers. So now we get to the Levites. This is the enrollment of the Levites by their clan. Of Gershon, the clan of the Gershonites; of Kohath, the son of the clan of the Kohathites; of Merari, the clan of the Merarites. And again, we read that right at the beginning of Numbers. These are the clans of Levi, the clans of the Libnites, the clan of the Hebronites, the clan of the Machlites, the clan of the Mushites, the clan of the Korachites. Korach, that's the B'nai Korach again. That's the Korach people. Kohat begot Amram. And of course, Amram is Moses and Aaron's father and Miriam's father. And now we get this great little thing here about the Levites. A little drill down, if you will. The name of Amram's wife was Yocheved, the daughter of Levi, who was born to Levi in Egypt. She bore to Amram, Aaron, and Moses, and their sister Miriam. So this genealogy here, folks, flat out says that Amram was married to his aunt. That Yocheved was actually Levi's daughter. It could be, as some people have said, is that she's not literally his daughter, that she's his granddaughter, and didn't have to be that, sometimes somebody's born to somebody and it's not their kid, it's their grandkid, but it's also possible that she was just very young. She was a very young child of Levi. And by the time she was born, the older brothers already had kids. And their grandkids were the same age as their kids, which happens all the time. Happens in my family. To Aaron were born Nadav and Avihu, Eleazar and Itamar. And you know what the next line is going to tell us. Nadav and Avihu died when they offered alien fire before the Lord. And we read that yesterday in Midrash class. We read the Midrash on that. We read the story in Shmini about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. We read Shmini. We read the story of them being burned up. Again, virtually the same line. They offered up alien fire. Eish Zara, Bifnei Adonai. The enrollment of 23,000 comprised all males from a month up. So they were not part of the regular enrollment of Israelites, since no share was assigned to them amongst Israelites. So it doesn't matter really how many of them come into the land, because it's not going to affect how big their property is, because they don't have a property. They live amongst everybody else. So it says, these are the persons enrolled by Moses and Eleazar, the priest, who registered the Israelites on the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. So that is the list of how many there were. And it says right there, the very end, the last two verses are, among these, there was not one of those enrolled by Moses and Aaron the priests when they recorded the Israelites in the wilderness of Sinai. For the Lord had said of them, they shall die in the wilderness. Not one of them survived except Caleb, son of Yefuneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun. So if you thought that they forgot about those numbers, nope. They did not forget about them. They actually just reminded you right now that, oh yeah, we know those people. We remember them. So that is the list, folks. That is the list of Numbers chapter 26. And now it's Numbers chapter 27, which is a completely different story, but builds on what we just read about, which is this one group, family group, which is the daughters of Zelophehad. So I will point out here that here, when they do the numbering of the the Levites, they do it from 1 month up. They don't do it of Kohanim. They don't do the 30 and up, which is what 30 to 50 actually, not 30 and up. The Levites, not just the Kohanim, but the Levites are, you remember, are numbered from 30 to 50. That's where they're working. They're supposed to be working in those ages. But anyways, so now we get to the daughters of Tzlov, which is a very famous story. We've read it before, we've studied it before, but it is interesting to kind of reflect on it because it's an example of a story that, well, we don't really know why. Again, we have a situation where the Torah basically includes within it a story of the Torah not accounting for, well, what about this situation? So it says the daughters of Chad of the Manassehite family, son of Hefer, we just read about him, this Gilad, son of Gilad, of Machir, the son of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, came forward. The names of the daughters were Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. We just read them. And again, maybe that's why this story is placed right here, is because we just had this genealogy. We had an accounting of that the tribe size determined what the property size was. They stood before Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the chieftains, and the whole assembly at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So everybody, I mean, the leaders were all there, but also it says the whole assembly, everybody. They did it in front of everybody. And here's what they say. Our father died in the wilderness. He was not of the faction, Korach's faction, which banded together against the Lord, but died for his own sin, and he has left no sons. So what's interesting about this story is that the daughters come up right away going, our daughter died, our father died. He didn't do anything bad with the Korach people, but he is part of that generation that all had to die. But he wasn't one of the really bad ones. He's just one of the ones who doesn't get to go in. He's dead now. But where do we get a piece of property? Because he didn't have any sons. So are you just going to let that line go? And they actually are more forceful about it because they said, Lama. They said, why? You can't, to some extent, I don't know, that's the way they translate it. Let not our father's name be lost to his clan just because he had no son. Give us a holding among our father's kinsmen. So make sure our father's name doesn't get written out. And his property, essentially, as a tribal leader, goes to nothing. So Moses brought their case before the Lord. So Moses doesn't know what to do. He doesn't give an answer. So the Torah is basically saying there was no answer to this question. And so the Torah has an answer. But what happens when the Torah can't add to the Torah every time we have a question? But it does at least give us precedence for saying that sometimes we have to consult God. So it says Moses brought their case before the Lord. So how did that happen? There's interesting midrashim that Moses consulted the Urim and Tumim, the priestly 8-ball, magic 8-ball, that he went to the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate, and asked these questions, that he uses oracular devices to try to find out what to do. But here it literally says in the Torah that Moses brought it to God directly, Lifnei Adonai. And it says that the Lord spoke to Moses, and not in a dream. I mean, assumedly, he talks to him like he's talked to him every other day. The plea of Tzolov Chad's daughters is just. You should give them a hereditary holding among their father's kinsmen, transfer their father's share to them. Further, speak to the Israelite people, say as follows: if a man dies without leaving a son, you shall transfer his property to his daughter. If he has no daughter, you shall assign the property to his brothers. If he has no brothers, you shall assign his property to his father's brothers. So his uncles. If his father had no brothers, you shall assign his property to the nearest relative in his own clan, which assumed would be his cousins. And he shall inherit it. this shall be the law of the procedure for the Israelites in accordance with the Lord's command to Moses. So what's the law? The law is essentially kind of like what Moses was trying to force them to do in the first place, which is to basically say, oh, of course it's going to the woman unless there's a family member who can get it. I'm not going to let it leave the tribe. So essentially Moses protects them, but he really protects the tribe. I mean, a lot of people say, well, Moses is a proto-feminist. Well, first of all, he's not, because he doesn't know what to do. God is the one who gives the answer. So if anything, God is a proto-feminist, which makes sense. But I'm only being quasi serious about this, but I am making the point that think about what happens here, which is they don't know what to do. And God has to provide an answer. So the Torah basically records a law that is put into motion based on need, which again establishes the point that at some point we have to do this ourselves, which is a very interesting idea on the nature of laws, how laws are created. Are they done in response to situations that people are really sitting with, which is essentially, by the way, what the Supreme Court does, as we know. I mean, not everything goes before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court deals with things that they think that they should be dealing with. So this is a situation where they go to Moses. Moses takes the grievance to God, but Moses doesn't know what's going to happen. Moses doesn't seem like Moses knows he's going to get an answer. And the bottom line is, as much as we want this to be about protecting the rights of women, it's not. I hate to say it, it's really about protecting the property of a tribe and making sure that a tribe doesn't lose their property. If a bunch of people from a tribe have daughters and they all marry someone from another tribe, you can't lose your tribe to another tribe. So, a little water break. That is the lesson from this, which is again, and I will say that people do say that this is a highly evolved allowance for women to own property, but I will say that what it really comes down to is you shall assign his property to his nearest relative in his own clan, he shall inherit it. The important thing again seems to be he doesn't leave the tribe. So that's the story of the daughters of Zelophehad. It's not the end of the story, because the end of it is coming up in the next portion. But it's an interesting, it's a little mini story. Not a lot of verses, a couple of verses, but it's interesting. Now we get to this very powerful Moses and God scene. Remember, there's not a lot of scenes. I mean, we've read them all. There's the burning bush, the first scene. There's, Mount Sinai. There are scenes where Moses and God talk face to face. There are other times when God seems to be speaking to Moses, but Moses doesn't necessarily see anything. It's maybe in the tabernacle we have over and over again, God spoke to Moses saying, but did those happen like every time like this? Or did Moses just get the word from God and he knew it was there? And again, it says that he didn't get it in a dream like most prophets do. He's talked to God face to face. So it is something different, but this is really different. This is, again, back to those kind of scenes that we had earlier in the book of Exodus, not in the book of Leviticus, where we don't have that kind of obvious intimacy between God and Moses during those scenes, where God questions, or Moses questions God, where he wants to see God, those kinds of things. So here it says, the Lord said to Moses, ascend these heights of Abiram and view the land that I have given the Israelite people. When you have seen it, you too shall be gathered to your kin, just as your brother Aaron was. For in the wilderness of Zin, when the community was contentious, you disobeyed my command to uphold my sanctity in their sight by means of water. Those were the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. So remember that thing you did when you struck the rock? Well, this is where it's going to happen. So when what's interesting is when Moses first understands what's happening, when Moses is kind of well, let's read what Moses' response are. So he did the thing at Meribah Kadesh. Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, "Let the Lord, source of the breath of all flesh," beautiful words for God, Elohai haruchot l'chol basar, God, the source of energy for all flesh, appoint someone over the community who shall go out before them and come in before them, and who shall take them out and bring them in, just so the Lord's community may not be like sheep that have no shepherd. So Moses in his humility says, look, you got to appoint somebody else. You've got to make somebody else in charge. And his point is, there needs to be a leader. You can't leave it up to the community or a oligarchy or a group of people. There needs to be a leader. They can't be like sheep that don't have a shepherd. And the Lord answered Moses, "Single out Joshua, son of Nun, an inspired man, and lay your hand upon him." Now, there's a little question here. Like, would God not have done this if Moses hadn't prodded him? Was Moses waiting? Was God waiting? Assumedly not Joshua. I mean, even if it was Joshua, he kept knocking on Moses's door going, "Hey, do I get to take over yet? Is it time yet?" He comes back a day later. "What about now? Do I get to take over now?" It doesn't say he did that, but it also seems to be that Moses is ready to turn over leadership, or at least saying to God, there needs to be someone like me in charge. So what does Joshua do? He turns to, what is he going to do? He's going to have him stand before Eleazar, the priest, and before the whole community, and commission him in their sight. So he says to Moses, you're going to have this happen in front of Eleazar, the next generation priest, your nephew. He's going to be the one who does it, not Aaron. Aaron's gone. Not Pinchas yet. Not ready for the next generation. It's this intermediate guy, Eleazar, who is the second Kohen. He's the one who, again, so kind of like the middle child, kind of like the patriarch Isaac, who we don't know a lot about. We don't know a lot about Eleazar or Itamar for that matter. We know a lot about Aaron. I wouldn't say we know a lot about Aaron, but we know he's mentioned a lot. We don't know a lot about him, but he's mentioned a lot. And we have a lot about Eleazar, or at least he's mentioned quite a few times, and he definitely has some action. A lot. Well, considering we don't know a lot about Aaron's action, independent of Moses, it's a decent amount of action that Pinchas has. But Eleazar has this wonderful job of making Joshua, what does it says? Help he's helping Moses. Invest him with some of your authority, Moses, right? So that the whole Israelite people community may obey. But he shall not present himself to Eleazar the priest, who shall on his behalf seek the decision of the Urim before the Lord. By such instruction they shall go out, by such instruction they shall come in, he and all the Israelites and all the community. And Moses did as the Lord commanded him. He took Joshua and had stand before Eleazar, the priests and the whole community. He laid his hands upon him and commissioned him. He blessed him. He commanded him. That's the word that's used here. Vayatsa vehu. And he commanded him or commissioned him as God had said. So, what's interesting, of course, is that Moses gives Joshua some of his divine gifts, some of his power, his ruach, before he dies. So assumedly, God's power doesn't all go away. It doesn't say he had to give him all of it, but he has to give him some of his powers, some of his energy. Is it replaceable? I don't know. It doesn't seem that way, based on the fact that it just doesn't say give him some and then you're not really giving anything to him because you have unlimited amounts and then he'll have some, and it's like no one will ever notice the difference. It doesn't say that. It actually kind of implies that there is it's a limited amount of energy, and he has to give some of it away by God's command. So that is the end of chapter 27. So we've read about the daughters of Zelophehad. We read about Joshua being singled out.
Mission.
And now we're going to read the last two chapters 28 and 29, which are, you're going to say, wait a second, we only have 40 minutes. How's he going to read two chapters? I will tell you, because they're about one thing, these two chapters, very important things, and arguably, if not the most celebrated stuff in the Bible, it's definitely referred to a lot. I don't know what the right words are, but we read Pinchas at every holiday: Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuot, and we even read it at Rosh Chodesh when it falls on a Shabbat, because this is the portion that gives us the lists of the holidays and the sacrifices that were offered on each holiday. And so the maftir, the extra portion of the Torah that's read before the Haftarah, the last section of Torah, those 3 or 4 verses, whenever there's a holiday, we read it from Pinchas. So seems like the kind of thing you should have in Leviticus, a little bit, but to some extent, it's telling us that these holidays are not for the priests, they're for the people. They really are for the people. So let's read about them. You'll see the order of the holidays as they are given to us. Anybody want to guess what the first one is? Who doesn't know already? Someone guess.
7.
Very good. Very good. So command the Israelite people and say to them, be punctilious in presenting to me. This is just, again, another fancy way of saying, make sure they do it right. Make sure they do it right. Make sure they're guarded. Tishmeru. Make sure that they do it in the right way. Don't be lazy about it. Present them to me at the stated times of the offerings, the food due to me, as offerings by pleasing odor, right? It's fire of pleasing odor. It's a good smell. We have that phrase over and over again. We've talked about it before. Reach nichoach, or it's reach nichochi, which is it's pleasing to me. Nichochi is it's pleasing to me. Reach nichoach means pleasing odor. Pleasing odor to me is nichochi. We have the phrase over and over again. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. Trust me. Say to them, these are the offerings by fire that you present as a regular burnt offering every day, 2 yearling lambs without blemish. So technically every day, the everyday offering is there. But you'll see, it goes right into Shabbat. You shall offer 1 lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you shall offer at twilight. And as a meal offering, there shall be 1/10 of ephah, choice flour, with 1/4 of hin of beaten oil mixed in, and regular burnt offering instituted at Mount Sinai, an offering by fire of pleasing odor for the Lord. So it says that there's a morning one and an evening one for the shachrit and one for the evening. This doesn't say shachrit, it says boker, it says the morning, which isn't, shachrit literally means the dawn, daybreak. Erev means evening. It doesn't have to be twilight. I mean, it doesn't have to be twilight, but it's as the sun's going down. And then there's also what we have now, the mincha, the afternoon one, which doesn't exactly say afternoon, but it says it's a mincha. It's a meal offering, which is what the word mincha means, the meal offering. So that's the afternoon service, the mincha. So we have prayer 3 times a day, the evening, the morning. But of course, the afternoon one is the other time that we now say the Amidah for each of those. So those are the 3 daily ones. The regular burnt offering out to Mount Sinai, pleasing odor to the Lord. Reach nichach. The libation with which is a quarter of hin for each lamb to be poured in the sacred precinct as an offering of fermented drink. This is the shechar, like the shikar, the alcohol form of this libation. It's presented and offered. The other lamb you shall offer at twilight, preparing the same meal, offering the libation in the morning, and offering a pleasing fire of pleasing odor to the Lord. And that is the daily offerings. Now we get to Yom Shabbat, on the Sabbath day. 2 yearling lambs without blemish, together with 2/10 of a measure of choice flour, oil mixed in as a meal offering with the proper libation. And so you can see, again, this is what we do every day. And 2 yearling lambs. And you can see here on Shabbat, you add an extra offering of 2 yearling rams on Shabbat. Now, this is where we get the extra Amidah that we do at services on Saturdays, what we call the Musaf service, the added Amidah, which takes the place of the sacrifice. So this is the added one for Shabbat. And it says, if you're thinking, well, it says an offering on Shabbat. It says right here, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its libation. So it's another one for Shabbat. So that happens every week. And then we get to what we do every month. Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Chodeshechem. On your new moons, you shall present a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 bulls of the herd, 1 ram and 7 yearling lambs without blemish. And that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big offering for a daily offering. It's a lot. There's a meal offering for each bull, 3/10 of a measure of choice flour with oil mixed in. There's a meal offering for each ram, 2/10 of a measure of choice flour with oil mixed in. As a meal offering for each 10th of a measure of fine flour with oil mixed in. Such shall be the burnt offering of pleasing odor and of offering by fire to the Lord. Their libation shall be 1/2 a hin of wine for a bull, 1/3 of a hin for the ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. That shall be the monthly burnt offering for each new moon of the year. So you can see that's a pretty big deal for what is offered up on the Rosh Chodesh. Then it says, actually, it's not even done. And this shall be done. There shall be 1 goat offering as a sin offering to the Lord to be offered in addition to the regular burnt offerings and its libation. So that is what we do on Rosh Chodesh. Every month, 4 weeks, we have a Rosh Chodesh. It is the 20th of Tammuz today. So we're coming up on, coming in up on the ends of the last 2 months of the year before high holidays. The month of Av, where we have Tisha B'Av, the commemoration of the destruction, which is in about 3 weeks. And then, of course, we have Elul, the month before high holidays, this year, almost the beginning of August. We're getting close. So that's the monthly offerings. And that is, yeah, for each new moon of the year. And by the way, I like these portions for a certain reason. My daughters read these portions at their bat mitzvahs. They did their bat mitzvahs on a Rosh Chodesh, which when it's on a Sunday, you can read the Torah on a Sunday when it's a Rosh Chodesh, and we read these sections, and that's what they did. They read these sections, and you actually read the Shabbat sections and the Rosh Chodesh sections on the Rosh Chodesh. So they read these verses. They read starting here. They didn't have a Haftarah. None of my daughters had a Haftarah, but they read from here to decent amount of Torah reading, but that is where it goes to there. So that is the first, including the daily, it's daily, Shabbat, and Rosh Chodesh. Now we get to the once a year things, the holidays. And here we have them. This is what we finish with today. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, there shall be a Passover sacrifice to the Lord. Passover. You knew that one. And back then, again, it was the first month, right? It was the first month of the year. And that is interesting because it says we have a Passover sacrifice. Then it says on the 15th day of the month of the festival, unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. Again, we say this every time we read about Passover. It's 2 holidays, my friends. It's 2 holidays. One's on the 14th and one's on the 15th, or at least one is the 14th, the Passover sacrifice, and the other one is the unleavened bread holiday, Hag HaMatzot. For Shivat Yamim, you eat matzah for 7 days, unleavened bread for 7 days. So again, seems like there were 2 different holidays combined together. So on this week-long holiday, the first day is a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. You shall present an offering by fire to the Lord, 2 bulls of the herd, 1 ram, 7 yearling lambs, see that they are without blemish. So again, this is a big deal. It's only done once a year for the holiday, but this would have been done. Well, let me get to that. The meal offering with them shall be of choice flour with oil mixed in. Prepare 3/10 of a measure for a bull, 2/10 for a ram, and for each of the 7 lambs, prepare 1/10 of a measure. And there shall be 1 goat for a sin offering to make expiation on your behalf. Again, this is your expiation. You shall present these in addition to the morning portion of the regular burnt offering. So you do it in the morning, you offer up your holiday sacrifice for Pesach, and you still do the other one. You always do the other one. Now, what about if it's Rosh Chodesh? Well, it can't be, folks. It's always not on Rosh Chodesh. It's the opposite time of the month. It's at the full moon. Rosh Chodesh, there is no moon, 0 moon. You can't see the moon. It's there, you just can't see it, but it's being blocked out. It's not there for you to look at. There is no moon for you to measure. It's going to be there the next day, and the next day it'll get bigger. And when it's a really big moon, you're going to have Passover. And what does it say about sacrifice? Sacrifice, sacrifice. Sacrifice. That's a sacrifice. Then it says, you shall offer the like daily for 7 days as food, an offering by fire, pleasing odor to the Lord. It shall be offered with their libations in addition to the regular burnt offering. So this is, you do your other one, and then you do this one too. And on the 7th day, just like on the first day, the 7th day is a day of rest. It's Mikra Kodesh, which is why we have a tradition of not working the beginning of Passover or the end. For people who follow 8 days of the holiday, you do nothing the first 2 days except obviously cook, eat, have Seder, have fun with your family. You know, do nothing, but you're not supposed to work on the first day or first 2 days and the last 2 days if you're following 8 days. As it says again, on the seventh day is a sacred occasion. You shall not work in your occupations. On the first day, on the day of the first fruits, your feast of weeks, when you bring an offering of new grain to the Lord, you shall observe a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. This is Shavuot, which is called here Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits. It also says it's your Shavuotechem. It's your feast of weeks. It actually uses both terms in the Torah for Shavuot. No work. And of course, similar situation here, folks. Present your burnt offering of pleasing odor to the Lord. 2 bulls of the herd, 1 ram, 7 yearly lambs. The meal offering along with them shall be choice flour with oil mixed in, 3/10 of a measure for a bull, 2/10 for a ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. And there shall be 1 goat expiation for expiation. There shall be 1 goat for expiation in your behalf. Seir Azim. This is again, just like we had for Passover. You shall present them, they are without blemish, with their libations, in addition to the regular burnt offerings and its meal offerings. So we did Pesach, Shavuot, and now we come to Sukkot. And look at how long this one is. Because chapter 28, which was, just make sure I got this, 31 verses. 31 verses. We had the daily offerings, we had the Shabbat offerings, we had the monthly offerings, and we had Passover and Shavuot. Again, daily, weekly, monthly, Passover, Shavuot. 5 holidays or designations, and it was 31 verses. Okay. Check this out. This is the month of Tishrei now for us. This is when we celebrate the first month. You shall observe a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. You shall observe it on the day when the horn is sounded. This is obviously Rosh Hashanah. You shall present a burnt offering of pleasing odor to the Lord. 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, 7 yearly rams without blemish. The meal offering with them, choice flour with oil mixed in, shall be 3/10 of a measure for bull, 2/10 for ram, and 1/10 for each lamb. There shall be 1 goat for sin offering to make expiation on your behalf. And of course, in addition to the burnt offering of the new moon with its meal offering, and the regular burnt offerings with its meal offering, each with its libation as prescribed, offering by pleasing odor to the Lord. Now, here, it's not just the regular burnt offering, the daily burnt offering, but also the new moon, because of course, Rosh Hashanah is a Rosh Chodesh. So you have Rosh Chodesh, you have your daily, and you have a third one, which is now the Amidah that we do, the extra Amidah we do. We sometimes call it the Avodah service. It's the extra Amidah we do on Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because there were 3 sacrifices made on Rosh Hashanah. So again, what's interesting about this is what it says. And it's literally, the sacrifices is the same list that we have for everything. It's about 5 or 6 lines, 6 lines. And then we get Yom Kippur chronologically. On the 10th day of the 7th month, of the same 7th month, you shall observe a sacred occasion when you shall practice self-denial. You shall do no work. You shall present to the Lord a burnt offering of pleasing odor. 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, 7 yearling rams. See that they are without blemish. And a meal offering with them, with choice flour with oil mixed in, shall be 3/10 of a measure for a bull, 2/10 for the 1 ram, 1/10 for each 7 rams. And there shall be 1 goat of sin offering in addition to the sin offering of expiation, and the regular burnt offering with its meal offering with its libation. Same thing that we read for Rosh Hashanah, except we didn't hear that there's a shofar being blown. And this was, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first one for Rosh Hashanah was 6 verses. Okay, that was 6 verses. This one is 5 verses because, well, because it doesn't have, first of all, that you hear the sound of the shofar, but it also doesn't have that you're also doing a new moon offering. Well, you're not, because it's the 10th day of the month. But now watch what happens. So this is now, that's verse 11. So that's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, 11 verses total. I'm just showing you 11 verses. That's 11. Okay. Now watch Sukkot. And I think you guys know the point I'm going to be making here. On the 15th day of the month, full moon, folks, again, just like Pesach, full moon, middle of the month. On the 15th day of the 7th month, you shall observe a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. 7 days you shall observe a festival of the Lord. You shall present a burnt offering, an offering of pleasing fire, of pleasing odor to the Lord. 13 bulls of the herd, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs, and they shall be without blemish. Much bigger sacrifice. Much bigger sacrifice. You start out with 13 bulls on the first day. It's huge. 13 and 14 yearling lambs, right? Because on Yom Kippur, just a few days before, you have 7. I mean, it's not just 2 rams instead of 1 ram. I mean, it's not just, oh, we went from 1 bull to 13. Everything got doubled. It's huge. And remember, this is a whole week. A whole week. That's the first day. And again, it's in addition to the burnt offering. It's not like it takes the place of the daily offering. It's in addition to it. So now you can see, okay, folks, this was only the first day. We only went from verse 11. We went from verse 12, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 5 verses for 1 day. So if you want to guess, is it roughly 35 verses for Sukkot? Yeah, but wait, there's more. So you'll see how much more this holiday is celebrated. And I will tell you that it's even crazier from this standpoint. I will put forth to you, my friends, when we're ready in a few moments, an even crazier idea about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur than maybe we've even ever shared before. So hold on to your horses. We get to the end of this in about 10 minutes, my friends. Second day, day 2, 12 bulls of the herd, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish. Did you notice the difference?
The bulls.
Yeah, 1 less bull, right? It went from 13 down to 12. The other ones are the same, 2 rams, 14 lambs. That's saying the same, but the bulls are going down. So you can imagine what's going to happen by the end. Still a lot more than the 1 that we have on a normal holiday. The meal offerings and the libations for the bulls, rams, and lambs, and the quantities prescribed. So here, by the way, it almost is ditto. And by the way, you remember those 2/3 and 3/4, or whatever. This is, yeah, it's the same. It's the same. And 1 goat for a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its meal offerings and libations. 3rd day. So it's gone down a little bit, by the way, because the 2nd day only has 1, 2, 3 verses. 3rd day, 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish, the meal offerings and libations for bulls, rams, and lambs in the quantities prescribed. And 1 goat for sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering, its meal offerings and libations. The 4th day, 10 bulls, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish, the meal offerings and libations for the bulls, rams, and lambs in the prescribed quantities prescribed, and 1 goat for sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering, its meal offering, and libation. Anyone want to guess how many there is for the sick? So 5th day, 9 bulls, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish, the meal offerings and libations for the bulls, rams, and lambs, and the quantities prescribed, and 1 goat for a sin offering, and a partridge in a pear tree, in addition to the regular burnt offerings, meal offering, and libation. And on the 6th day, 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish, the meal offerings and libations for the bulls, rams, and lambs in the quantities prescribed, and 1 goat for a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offerings, its meal offerings, and libations. 7th day, 7 bulls, 2 rams, 14 yearling lambs without blemish, the meal offerings and libations for the bulls, rams, and lambs in the quantities prescribed, and 1 goat for a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offerings, its meal offerings, and libations. So you can imagine each day you can read off what we're doing. We're doing exactly what the Torah says. We're following the instructions. And when we get to the 7th day of Sukkot, we're down to 7, which is still 7 times more than we did on Rosh Hashanah. It's still 7 times more than we did at Yom Kippur. It's still 7 times more. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still 7 times more than we do at
And is all this cooked and offered to the entire?
Yeah. So on Pesach we do two bowls. We do 2 bowls for Pesach, and for Feast of Weeks we do 2 bowls.
Wow.
So when we're done on the 7th day, we're doing 7 for Sukkot. So you can see it's a huge amount. So if you do 13 to 12 to 11 to 10 to, so we'll guess what you come up with when you do that. Anyone want to guess roughly? See if you can roughly guess it out. See if you can do that. Those guessers. If it's like a guesser, can you figure it out? It's 70. It's not about. It's 70. It's about 10 per day on average. So you started at 13 or 7. Roughly the middle there, right? And you multiply it by 7. It's what it is, 70. Obviously 70 is a symbolic number. It's a whole number. It's the number of, it's 7 times 10. I mean, it's a complete number, but it's also, of course, the number of nations according to tradition, the number of languages. And it's considered to be like a large enough number that when you think about it, it's a lot. They're like, wow, it's roughly, according to the Bible, the age of man. It's not that we only get 70 years, but on average, the Bible says, what's a man's life? 70 years. Well, some of us get blessed with more than that, but the reality is that not too far away from what our average lifespan is in America, by the way, at least for men. So 70 is a magical and mystical symbolic number. And that's what you wind up with when you add up those bowls. But as you add up, that's 14 rams that you did over Sukkot. It's 91. No, sorry. It's bad math on my part. It's 84. It's 84 lambs during Sukkot. I mean, there's actually another day coming up. I don't want to ruin it. But it's a lot. It's a lot of animals throughout Sukkot, which again shows you how important the holiday was. And this is the Shmini Atzeret. This is actually the bonus day, which is also Sukkot, or it's part of Sukkot. It's not Sukkot, it's the 8th day. Also, you hold a solemn gathering. You do not work at your occupations, and you shall present a burnt offering by fire, pleasing odor to the Lord. 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 yearly lambs without blemish. So if you add those lambs to it as well, again, you're talking about 91 lambs that are offered during Sukkot. It's a tremendous amount. And again, this is a smaller one. It's only 1 bull, 1 ram. It's more like, again, what you'd have at the end of a holiday or Shabbat, which is what it is. The meal offerings and libations for the bull, ram, and lambs, quantities prescribed, 1 goat for sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering libation. So that's the 8th day. That is the last part of Sukkot. That's Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day. As you can see, it took us down to 30. It took us down to the 38th verse, folks. That is 38th verse. 38. Now, what I'm going to tell you is this whole chapter, chapter 29, is really, even Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I will argue, I believe, that it's all a ramp up to Sukkot, in the sense that the reason that we have a Rosh Chodesh, a festivity 14 days earlier than Sukkot, is because the whole month is supposed to be exciting. And so Rosh Hashanah, which is not, again, Rosh Hashanah at the time, folks, it's not the beginning of the year, it's the 7th month. It's the last harvest, if you will, of the year. The first harvest, the spring harvest, is Pesach. Your last harvest of the year is Sukkot. It's the fall harvest, the end of summer, fall harvest. And it's a big blowout month. It's the whole month of celebration. And I would argue that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are only really there for Sukkot. That Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are literally to get us into the mood and to celebrate and to get us clear for Sukkot. Because why is Sukkot so important? If you don't have a good harvest for Sukkot, you don't have any food till Pesach. There is no more harvesting, folks. This is the harvest, the ingathering harvest. This is the big one. If we don't get food in Sukkot, we don't have food for the rest of the year. We have to wait 6 months to our next harvest. So the harvest kicks off big with Pesach, and it ends really big with Sukkot. It better end very big with Sukkot, because if not, we don't have enough food. So the holiday was very important during biblical period. It was the time that Solomon built the Beit HaMikdash. The temple in Jerusalem is dedicated on Sukkot by King Solomon, and was always attached to it. And it's why we know later on, during the time of the Maccabees, when the Maccabees couldn't celebrate Sukkot, I've told you this before, it's not a secret, when they couldn't celebrate Sukkot, not Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur, but Sukkot, they said, we're going to celebrate it in Kislev, and they called it Hanukkah. They celebrated a Sukkot because they missed Sukkot, and Sukkot was so super, super important. So this is what is so amazing about this holiday, is that it's really buried in our history. To understand, to uncover how important this holiday was, all you have to do is read the text. The text is there. Yeah, Joyce.
How come we don't, as Jews, honor farmers more? If the harvest is so important and the food is so important, we honor priests and all sorts of people. We don't honor kings. We don't honor our farmers.
So why do you think that is?
I don't know.
What anybody have any thoughts why we don't celebrate our harvest anymore? Why we don't celebrate it? Any thoughts about it? I think it's a great question. My belief is because we take it for granted today.
Oh, well,
We go
even
to
then it seemed that they don't talk a lot about the farmers.
who?
The Torah.
No. Wait, the reason that they don't talk about it in particular is because everybody was a farmer. So they don't single them out because they don't say, hey, we love the farmers, because everybody was a farmer. Everybody that's essentially following this is, well, they're not a farmer, they're a herdsman. They're all connected to the system. They're all part of the system.
They're all making food.
Yeah, and so the problem is that we have holidays that are integral to the life of the community, right? And so for us today, as Jews, our holidays are disconnected. They've become times when we affirm our Judaism. In the biblical period, the holidays were the times that you affirmed your existence. And so there was no, well, I got to figure out a way to celebrate it this year. I better go to the synagogue for the holiday, or I better get some matzah at the grocery store. It was part of your life. And so, it's kind of the way that we don't think about it so much today, because the reality is really the closest holidays to this, or at least the way they used to be, and I'm serious about this, I mean, it's hard because we're not harvesting and most of us are not producing anything that we can actually hold tangibly, right? Because most of us are in a service-based economy where it's difficult to see, what we're really producing anyways, right? That's a whole nother issue. But I would say the closest thing that we have to this, to some extent, really is and I hate to say it because people really don't celebrate it because it's connected to having to give back, and we don't like giving back in this way. The closest thing, folks, is April 15th, this tax day, because what we're really saying is that if we looked at our tax day as not, oh, this is the day we have to give the government our food, our products, our livelihood, or piece of our livelihood, if we liked doing it, if we felt that it was going into something productive, we might have a different feeling about it. But it's essentially the day when just bear with me for 1 second, just follow this logic for a second. It's the day that we essentially, or maybe not, or by April 15th or around April 15th, we meet with our accountant, where if we're really smart, we do our taxes ourselves or whatever. We have a computer that does it, whatever. But essentially around that time, we find out how much money we made last year, right? We figure out what our worth was, not what our personal worth was, but what our economic worth was, what we brought in. What did we bring in? What will we be taxed on? But essentially, if it turned into a celebration of saying, oh, look what I got this year, and look what I need to do in order to invest in my success over the coming months, that's what this is about, because it's literally about your livelihood. It's literally about, am I going to make it this year? And to some extent, it's the harvest is you're bringing in, well, what I've got, but we also, of course, then are also planning, well, what do we have for the future? What do we have? We brought in the grain, we get to store it away, and at least we know what we've got when we fall back on it, because about that time we'll know, hey, look, this is how much I got to pay IRS, this is how much I got in my bank account, now this is what I got safely tucked away for myself. And again, it's not a great example, and it's not, I know people are gonna say, well, I don't look at it that way, but it's the closest thing we have, the day that we mark our economic value. And that's what I'm telling you, this is what it was for our ancestors. And that's why it was so important, because we are relying on the environment. They are relying on their farms and on their crops and on their animals. And if it's a good year, it means that literally I don't have to worry about, whether I have to sell my farm or whether I have to, give up, some more of my property to sell some of my property, because I've made enough.
Were there times when the community didn't have the 70 bowls to give over that period of time? There must have been time. Maybe there wasn't enough.
I will tell you, on a national level,
there would be.
There would have been, because we're talking about, if you think about it, Josh, we're talking about like 600,000 adult men.
Got it.
So for 600,000 adult men, we're talking about a tremendous amount of, I mean, to put it in terms of like what we're talking about here, I mean, it would be like if each one of us came up with, $5, and it's not really, I mean, it's not even $5. I mean, it would be like for everything for the year, we'd be chucking in $5. So it's not like the burden, the economic burden on them to have this was that much. And eventually, as we talked about, the priests had enough land and enough animals that they didn't even think about it. They didn't even think about it.
Right.
It wasn't even
too much eventually.
Too much. Exactly. So, so this becomes, for us, these holidays become something else, which is affirmations of our history and our connections to that. Each one of those holidays, Passover, the time we left Egypt, Sukkot, the time we were in the wilderness, Shavuot, the time we got the Torah, they become associated with points of our history, our historic experience, rather than agricultural festivals on their own right.
Oh, you've explained it. That is beautiful. I finally have an understanding of it.
And I would argue that we need to have celebrations that are affirmations of what our values are. So, what's perfect about this is that we're coming up to that this weekend. The 4th of July is an affirmation of our values because it is a testament, if you think about it, to the documents that are our founding. So in a sense, almost like our Shavuot, which celebrates the giving of the Torah, July 4th celebrates the Declaration of Independence and the document that we signed that day, roughly, right? I know people can say, well, they didn't get all the signature. That's stop, the July 4th, okay? Let's just stick to July 4th. We all know what it means. And so it's the day that we celebrate independence. And I had the good fortune one year, 3 years ago, of being in Philadelphia for the 4th of July. That's one of the places you really feel the 4th of July, and knowing that you were sitting in Independence Hall where they were signing this, and where they were meeting, and that's what this is a celebration of. It's a celebration of our and I know it's not a celebration of the Constitution, but it kind of makes we do have a Constitution Day, by the way, too. But if you think about those days, it is an affirmation day of American values. And again, what's interesting is that some people have a tradition of putting up their flags on Flag Day back in June, a couple of weeks ago, and then leaving them up through the 4th of July, so that there is this buildup.
I do.
To build up to this day, right? So this is kind of what I would argue is kind of a recognition, like Sukkot is, that you can't really celebrate this on one day. And that is a cool thing about Sukkot, is that it's a multiple day festival, which shows you how important it is, because it is a celebration that takes multiple days to put into effect. And I would say that, again, we don't really have that as Jews. The only time we really feel that, by the way, is Hanukkah. And that's especially when we have kids and people that we have to give gifts to. That's where we feel a multiple day buildup, but it's really devoid of the value because again, Hanukkah has also kind of been stripped of its meaning, which is, again, about Jewish independence. It's fighting for our values. It's fighting for our culture. And so it's a really important idea, but it's not obviously the holiday as we know it today. It's not, it's really a holiday of fighting back against assimilation. And so that is a tremendous value, but anyways, we'll finish up. And again, the holidays as we have them definitely need to have this reintegration. I will tell you that for me, what was interesting, and the way I guess I've kind of lived my life, and I think about the way Joyce and I were talking about your life and the way you look at it, I've always kind of associated the fall with going back to school, because I've either been at school, I've taught at school, I've got kids in school. And so for me, and now I only have one child in school, but that's going to be another probably 7-8 years before Shira's out of college. It's still, I'm on that schedule of what the fall means. But when that stops, it'll be interesting to see whether I have that feeling, because I'm not going through the rituals. I'm not going out, we have the school, so going out to the school supply shopping and going out for getting the new clothes for the new school year, and going through what classes are we taking? All of those kind of rituals of the fall. Those are rituals of the fall for me, which happen around the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And it's when we kind of come back to the synagogue and we kind of get to a new what's being rolled out. I mean, we do it in the summer, obviously. That's why we're doing our new membership cycle. But, September is when the synagogue year kind of starts. So for me, it has a real feeling of this is really like my new year. For not now, I'm talking about in September this year.
But we still have rituals. I have my flag out. I got out the Declaration of Independence. I have been rereading it. So we all have rituals because the 4th of July is important to me. And we develop rituals to commemorate all of the things we do. And I believe that's why the Jewish people is still the Jewish people, because of our rituals,
Yeah.
and that we adhere to them.
Yeah, and we really have created rituals that that help give meaning to our lives.
Yes.
The problem is that very often it's become disassociated from the life that we lead on a daily basis, and that's one of the problems, is that we're not thinking enough about our context of that. But that's, to me, why for me personally, one of the big days of the year is Israel Independence Day. So for me, that is an important holiday. Holocaust Memorial Day, for me, Yom HaShoah is a very important day for me that I actually think about, that I mark in a way that, I'm going to be honest to you, for me, I'm not advocating it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, to me, the way I feel about it, I feel more powerfully affected on Yom HaShoah than I am on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which we're coming up to soon. And for thousands of years, there was no Yom HaShoah, thankfully. We didn't have that, but we had our sad day was Tisha B'Av, and that was a really sad day. I mean, people fasted, they mourned, they sang songs of sadness. It was a very sad day, and we don't think about that anymore in the same way. But to me, that's what Yom HaShoah is. It's a day of reflecting, maybe watching a movie about the Shoah, maybe talking to Holocaust survivors, those kind of things. That becomes, to me, a day of actual commemoration. I don't say celebration, but commemoration on that day. So we'll read the last 2 verses. You shall offer to the Lord at the stated times, in addition to your votive and free will offerings, be they be burned offerings, meal offerings, libations, or offerings of well-being. So Moses spoke to the Israelites just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Interestingly enough, that's part of the previous portion of the one we just finishing. Christians decided that was going to be part of that. I would argue that the Jewish version makes more sense, because the next line is Vaydaber Moshe el Roshei Hamatot. Moses spoke to the head. So why would you have both of those lines as part of a new chapter? So I would say here in this case, without a doubt, that this one makes sense to go here. So next week when we read Matot, we'll have a chance to look at the last portions of the last chapters of Numbers. It's hard to believe we kind of went through Numbers already, but we're reading Matot, and it's a double portion with Maseh. It's the end of Numbers, but you can see it's chapter 30, 31, and it ends right here in chapter 32. And this is the end of the journey. Oh, sorry, 33 is where it is. Or it's like 34, maybe it's 34. Anyways, it's a very interesting chapter, because it basically gives the log. It's the travel log. As I like to say, it's the divine holy triptych. People really don't have triptychs, but when they had the triptych, this is the triptych of how we got to the promised land. So that'll be next week. We'll be back for Matot Maseh, which is again sometimes done, usually, actually most years is done as a double portion. So again, thanks everybody for being with us tonight. And Harvey, do you have anything you want to tell everybody? Harvey, come off of mute. I'm unmuting you.
I'm here.
Yeah, do you want to tell everybody something?
No, I think we're going to start our campaign for a new for membership this week
And that wasn't what I was leading to.
with the July 9th.
No, you were going to tell people to put in. You were the one who told me you want to do this. You want to make sure everyone has their information up through
Oh, yeah,
local cause.
please. When we renew our membership, please update information. Whether you think we have the right information or we do have the right information, We need to update everything to make sure we do. We've
it-
discovered that we don't have a complete list going out for the e-blast, not the e-blast, the membership list. We've had some issues, as you know. We've updated it last week. We've got 117 on the list now. We've had 2 people working on it. And no, I think that's it right now.
And if we do it once, then we don't have to have people fill out paperwork every year.
Right, we just want to get it, we're trying to get everything updated correctly, and we're trying to get one list that we can disseminate to all the different board members or whoever needs it. And if we call you because you didn't do it, it's just trying to get everything up to date. Because a lot of people, I'm just as guilty. I'm not going to turn it in because I haven't changed. I still live here, still have my phone, but I have to go through it again and make sure it's correct and sign off.
Harvey, is it on a website? Do we go to a
So you
website?
got 2 ways. You have 2 ways. Yeah. If you're going to pay your membership dues,
Yes,
mobile cards, it's on mobile cards. If you're going to pay it through a check, then you go to our website and there's a form there. So you can get it either by the check method, through the website, or through mobile cards. And either way, it'll get to Joanne, who's in charge of membership this year, with Cheryl Cogan.
Yeah, but the most important thing is if it's not a mobile cause, it only has to be done once. But some people haven't use mobile cause, and it's okay if you haven't. Like Harvey just said, if you do it,
what is
and
mobile card?
mobile cause. Mobile cause is the online way that people were. You don't even know you're using mobile cause. When people were signing up for high holidays and
Right?
did tickets last year, that was all done through mobile cause last year. So everybody can do you can do everything through. You can
So
buy tickets for Passover. You can buy
you go
anything.
to www.templebethami.org
Yep.
and I'll get there.
Yeah.
Right. If you have a
It
question,
won't
Joe,
say mobile cause, will it?
No, no.
Will it say membership? What?
yeah,
Oh, so I just go to membership.
Yep.
right.
Okay.
If you have a problem, call me.
All
And we
right.
can,
Yeah, Harvey's very good at helping people with it. It's real easy to use. We added it last year. We added it last year, and it's been able to streamline a lot of our processes, and we've done a much better job at being not perfect, but we're much more efficient than we were before when we had this all on forms and paperwork that we didn't really have. We tried, but it was hard to do a good job. But
Well,
anyway,
I'll be a member next year or
Yeah.
this year or whatever. I'm
All
going
right.
to continue my membership.
Thank you, Joyce. All right, everybody, stay
Have a-
good.
Thank
care.
you.
Take
Thanks,
care,
Rabbi.
everybody. All right,
Great
bye, everybody.
session.
Great seeing you, everybody. Take care.
bye.
Good seeing all of you.
Love you, Joyce.
Love you guys. So good to see you. Bless you.